The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I'm here to stand up for wrestling. I am here to give the fans a voice.
If you're not watching the promotion right now, you're missing out on something I think that could possibly shape the future of wrestling, and I mean this wholeheartedly, for the next 5 to 10 years.
Nobody can touch me. Nobody is better than Adam Cole.
This company is still existing, yet they have to do this at the 11th hour to make sure that they run these tapings. I thought TNA was going to be different, and I guess not.
This is truly the Kevin Owens Show.
Pentagon Jr. is the wind beneath my wing. The only thing that we get at 10 for sure, maybe at 11, is Ken Shamrock showing up.
The announcement of our newest knockout, her name is Brandy Rhodes. Many of you will be very familiar with Brandy.
Josh, I'm so excited to finally be in battle. I have wanted to wrestle for some time, and now that the opportunity has presented itself to be a part of the TNA knockouts, I am just so excited. I cannot wait to get out there with some of those great knockout gals and see what I can do.
Many people know you from your previous endeavors being a ring announcer. How many people are going to be surprised to learn that you actually would rather be competing inside the six-sided ring?
I think some people are going to be surprised, but people who followed me closely, they've known probably for quite some time that I've always expressed interest in being in ring. My initial coming into the wrestling business, the intent was to be in ring, but, I had other talents, so I explored them. But I always wanted to get in there and show my athleticism and show what I could do. It's hard to sit at the ring and know you can beat somebody up and not get a chance to. So...
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Welcome everybody to Wrestling to the Max, episode 213, part 1. And sorry for that little flub there. We were trying to get into the show, and we had a little countdown issue. But here we are, and we are going to have a great show. I'm looking forward to our big show here. We've got a lot of big news topics to talk about. That's right. Brandy Rhodes is now signed with TNA, guys. She is no longer a ring announcer. She is actually going to be a knockout. So you're actually going to get a chance to see her in the ring pretty soon. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, we are going to talk about her husband, Cody Rhodes. We're going to get into his contract situation. He's got some interesting things going on with a couple promotions. We'll be talking about that, plus some other cool stuff like Bull Dempsey. Ryback has a few things to say about big guys himself, and some other big news. You don't want to miss any of the stuff we're going to talk about today. Plus, we are going to talk about Ring of Honor. That's right. We have an episode from this week that we're going to get into. So, lots of cool stuff to talk about, guys. I'm your host, Gary Vaughn. Of course, I am here with my partners in crime, of course, Mr. Paul Leeser.
Heyo.
And Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's going on, people?
And, sometimes I like to stop off for a second here and, before we get into wrestling and just talk about something. So really quickly, I want to throw out there that I am super excited. The fall is getting closer. I know maybe in the northern states, I'm in the southern states, I'm here in Texas, but, I'm excited about cooler weather. I'm excited about what's going on with TV. I mean, my God, all the brand new shows are coming back. Before you know it, Walking Dead's going to be back. I'm already getting all the other cool shows I, love to watch, like the Goldbergs, all these other cool shows. So I'm super excited, guys. I am thrilled about that. I don't know about you guys. Anything going on in your guys' world? Anything, Paul?
If we're talking about season change, I really just can't wait to be out of this hot weather we've been having, Gary. It's been miserable around here.
It's sick. I feel bad. We have a swing set in the backyard. My daughter always wants to go outside and swing. I'm like, look, we can't do that. And she's like, but why? We can avoid the heat. And I'm like, we cannot avoid this heat. Trust me. I went out there to take the trash out and I almost had a heat stroke. So we're going to be safe. So we're sitting here complaining about heat, but we got the guy that lives in Miami who has to deal with it on a regular basis.
Yeah, humidity here sucks. But or it rains and then you just get a bunch of rain. So either way, I'm happy for it because I'm happy for all the pumpkin. Yes, I'm one of those people. I am all for the pumpkin flavored things to come out and the eggnog and all that. That's like my favorite time of going to the grocery store and I can buy pumpkin spice this and get pumpkin spice coffee and like 3 things of eggnog and have those stored up for a while. Yeah, so I'm all good for when that starts happening.
Yeah, I don't blame you either. That's why I love getting even closer to winter because I can always talk about my peppermint flavors. I love mint flavored stuff. So around Christmas time,
see, I like mint flavored stuff. I don't care for the peppermint flavor and things.
Love all of it. Dark mint chocolate. Oh man, I'm in heaven.
Yeah, that stuff's good. Yes.
Oh man. But anyway, enough about my indulgences and things that turn me on. Let's talk about
Oh dear.
Yeah.
We should talk about those things.
No, Sean, that's my Making Love with Gary podcast. It's a very interesting podcast.
Wow.
Hey, it's just all about love and people caring about each other.
Now we have to have like Gary After Dark going on.
Yeah. That'll happen later. Just to let everybody know, by the way, we have a special website that you can go check out things on. And maybe if I ever do that podcast, you'll see it on w2mnet.com. That's a place where of course, this show is hosted on, and of course, plenty of other stuff. We always talk about the W2M network, and that's, of course, a great place to go subscribe to if you need to go subscribe to anywhere on a podcast network near you. That's the one you want to go find. Plenty of great shows. But W2Mnet.com is a place where we also have written content for you guys. Paul does a lot on the wrestling section. Of course, he does the Ring of Honor and the Lucha Underground reviews. Of course, he has his own show on there, Paul. Why don't you quickly plug that?
Yeah, the Wrestling Time Machine. I go back, I'm going to review an entire year's work from a single promotion, rate matches, review shows, all that fun stuff. Both in article and podcast form, so if you have a preference, or if you want to do both, hopefully you'll get a more complete experience. But ROH 2002 won the poll, so hopefully I'll have that first episode up sometime this week with that review for The Era of Honor Begins, which is a fun show. It's a real fun show.
Sweet. So, that's just one of the things you guys have to look forward to on that website. And we wanted to also let you football fans know that we got plenty of football content, and we have fantasy football rankings. We, of course, I do a Stardom Sit-em on there for you guys. We have a podcast just for fantasy football, which Randy, Isabel, and Mike do, and they do a great job, just excellent job over there. And of course, all the other great content you don't want to miss. Of course, our regular Football to the Max show as well. So, I just want to give you guys a quick, navigation over there. It's just kind of a cool place you want to go check out if you have some free time. But besides that, enough plugging. I think we should go ahead and get onto some wrestling stuff. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's talk some quick hits.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Go.
All right. Now let's do this thing. Let's talk about the fact that Brandy Rhodes is now in TNA. That's right. She is now a knockout, and she is looking forward to actually getting in the ring and, like she said, as you heard in the intro, do some battle. So that's really cool for her. WB kind of put her in a spot of just being a broadcaster. Really didn't allow her to get her, feet wet too much in the wrestling ring. She had a little opportunity here and there, but just not too much. They kind of pigeonhole her into a certain spot. What do you guys think about this? Do you think she's going to have some success? How do you feel about this whole thing?
So here's the thing with Brandy getting into wrestling. Originally, she was trained in WWE, so that means she's been trained by Sarah Amato, Sarah Del Rey, whatever you want to call her, and all that goes on over there. She had some experience before she had left WWE, and now she's done some training here in Dallas, actually, too, with VIP Wrestling. You can see videos of her training on her Twitter and stuff like that, which is, I'd recommend following. It's pretty cool. And so I think this will be really neat. She's not the greatest, but obviously I don't think she's ever had an actual match, as far as I'm aware, even though she's been trained. So should be an interesting thing to see. I'm curious if she's gonna be there more full time than Cody is, to be honest. But I think she probably ends up working that same sort of deal that Cody has going around, which I'm sure we're gonna talk about too.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Sean, how do you feel about this?
This is fine. This is good. The Knockouts need fresh blood. It's somebody that's a recognizable name to people that. It would sort of be for people like us, which are also people that watch TNA. You don't really have you don't have a ton of casual TNA fans. It's mostly just the same hardcores that watch everything else that also watch the WWE, and so they'll probably know Brandy, and so it will help TNA to get somebody with a name. I don't know. The things with Brandy sort of conflicting. Like, I think Brandy's actually got a full contract with TNA, and I think Cody's is the one that's non-exclusive because he's gonna work the New Japan show, and he's gonna work Final Battle, and who knows what else he's going to work aside from that too. So I don't know. Brandy may have signed a different thing, but I think they already live in that area, so it really wouldn't be a big deal. Because it's not like they go do live events or whatever where it really affect a lot of what they do. So who knows? But that's kind of what I'm seeing. But either way, this is good for TNA. It's good for her that she finally gets to get in there and wrestle. That's what she really wants to do.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I feel as well. She may not have a ton of experience, but at least she has this opportunity, which she really wasn't afforded in WWE, which, maybe it's something that they just weren't interested in at the time. So, they had every right to do or not do it, and now she has her own right. So that's going to be cool. I'm excited for her. And hopefully she does lots of good, Now her husband, he's got lots of things going on. Of course, he's one of the hottest indie stars at the moment, and he has actually signed a deal with Ring of Honor and New Japan where he can work both. This is something that's not super new. We've seen guys kind of go back and forth between these two promotions, but I think it's going to be, a special situation here with Rhodes because I think he's going to be able to do some things and be a little more freelance.
Well, he's also working TNA, that's the whole thing. Like,
yeah.
TNA usually does not play nice with ROH and New Japan since they've become Impact Wrestling and done all that. They used to, but it's been a while. So,
yeah. Well, they've had to. They have had to kind of change their tune, especially when it comes to big stars, because anything that's going to help their ratings, I think they'll be willing to play nice. I think this is something special, Paul, because like Sean's sitting here saying, this is something kind of new. It's something we've never seen out of, basically 3 promotions willing to work together at this, stage.
3 televised promotions in the States are willing to work together on this, which is really, really cool. Cody is sort of out here blazing his own trail, which is really awesome. He's got a big tour in the UK coming up. He's working all these indie dates. He's really trying to help indie wrestling and as many promoters as possible. And now it finally comes up to the big guys with ROH and New Japan and TNA. And I'm kind of psyched. I'm interested to see how TNA is going to work him in and out. And I imagine Ring of Honor is going to use Cody much the same way they used Alberto Del Rio. And maybe a little differently, seeing as Cody's also going to be working New Japan. But just Cody's killing it. He's out here really doing something special and making you pay attention to him, and that's something I don't think you learn anywhere else but in the WWE.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. I mean, WB, does a lot of good things for you, and that's one of them. Sure, there's a lot of bad things that come with that company. You get tied down a lot. You really don't have time for anything else. But there are some solid things you come from it, and I think all that embodied has really given him a chance to go out there in the indie scene, do what he's always wanted to do, make the money that honestly I'm sure he doesn't mind making on the indie scene, because I know people are paying him pretty darn well. So this is really cool, and I'm really happy for both of them. I mean, like we talked about, Brandy may have a different schedule. She may be, stuck just being with TNA and not getting to do everything that maybe Cody's doing, but at least she's got a spot, and Cody's getting to live his dream at this moment. So I'm happy. I really am. I'm happy for both these, people, and we'll see what they do. I'm really looking forward to the future. And, of course, Paul's already got a chance to see this guy, Cody Rhodes, on the indie circuit. So, I mean, maybe one day, I'll get a chance to go do the same. Let's talk about some other interesting news here. And, we talked about Ring of Honor, having Cody Rhodes be part of their promotion. Let's talk about the fact that Bull Dempsey's actually headed over there, and he actually debuts at a live event. And so I just think that's neat. It's nice to see, this guy get a chance over Ring of Honor. I've kind of felt bad for him when he got released from NXT.
Bull Dempsey is he's an interesting worker. I never hated him. I was never a giant fan of him, but I did enjoy his work, and I'm interested to see what he can do outside of WWE and NXT and all that good stuff. The event that he shows up on was shot over in New York over the weekend. It's going to be a video on demand thing that Ring of Honor is going to be releasing hopefully soon, and he's in that Honor Rumble that they had on that show. So should be an interesting watch, something I plan on purchasing.
I mean, that's pretty cool that Bull Dempsey made his debut. Don't know if that's going to mean anything for him future-wise other than what he did there, but the dude was pretty good in NXT. I enjoyed his work. Obviously, Bullfit was great. And then he kind of died off after that, which sucked, because I thought they'd finally figured out something for him, and then just, he's released. But no, maybe go into newer pastures. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, we'll have to follow him. I'm really kind of curious where they put him. And, of course, when he hits TV, that'll be really fun to see. Well, let's talk about big guys. Bull Dempsey's a pretty big guy himself. But, Ryback has some things to say about him. Ryback says that WWE kind of punishes their big guys. Kind of tell me about that, Sean.
What he's talking about is he feels like he thinks that there should be divisions like MMA, and that those divisions need to be stuck, though they need to be basically in those divisions, and that because WWE has gone sort of smaller, that they're almost punished for being big, because he thinks that it takes the reality out of it when you have these smaller guys beating these bigger guys. Well, Sheamus isn't getting the push he used to be getting because he's a big guy, and I was a big guy, and they were putting all these other guys sort of in front of us, and he feels it takes away from wrestling because you have the smaller guys just winning matches and whatnot. That sort of difference between them is not there like it is in MMA or like it is in boxing. Or he brings up, Conor McGregor wouldn't be fighting Brock Lesnar. Why should that be happening in wrestling?
We're talking about reality versus fake reality. And I understand that there is an illusion that maybe bigger guys should be beating these smaller guys, but at the same time, wrestling is a very unique, different, strange beast all on its own, and something I don't think you can pigeonhole it into weight classes if you want, or you can do what WWE's doing and not, and let these guys go out there and do what they do best, and that's really wrestle and show off what they can do. We've seen a sort of a shift in general in wrestling from bigger guys being your top stars to sort of these, I don't want to say everyday looking guys, but certainly guys who aren't as tall or guys who aren't as wide, being guys who make it to the top, simply because I think these are the sort of guys who want to get into wrestling. Your bigger guys are doing other things, like MMA, or like football, or all these other sort of things where their size actually does matter and helps them succeed, whereas in wrestling, it's not always a guaranteed success story that you're this big giant guy, right? Especially nowadays with fans really wanting to see good wrestling no matter really where you go.
Yeah, I think also it's just you can relate to them more.
Mm-hmm.
As a regular fan, you relate to that. I think, in the 80s when you had the big guys, it was about wrestling was still in a fantasy world for people. It wasn't, kayfabe wasn't broken, and you still saw them as superheroes and whatever. And John Cena kind of made his name off of that or whatnot. But for every John Cena, you can no longer have 10 other guys that are either opposing John Cena or that are like John Cena. That you got to have a mixture of people, and now those mixture of people go further up the card than they used to because everybody's sort of like that now. Like, you just got smaller guys now, and it's for the health of the, things have changed. It's the health of the industry. If you have guys using roids, they don't usually get very far because they get caught wellness, or they just don't get very far because the fans don't latch onto them that way. And that's just the way it is. Usually you have to, if you're a big guy, you have to be athletic, like Apollo Crews or some of these other guys that are just super athletic but they're big. Ryback was sort of like that too. It's just Ryback just didn't get certain breaks that could have gone his way that really could have put him in a different situation than he is right now. Somebody like Sheamus, they've done a lot with Sheamus, maybe never gone full tilt with Sheamus, but they've done a lot more with Sheamus than they've with Ryback, and it's just one of those where just never caught on, I think, in the way that they wanted him to. And now he's sort of in those doldrums, and I don't know if he could ever get out of it, but I don't know if he's necessarily being punished for being a big guy either.
I don't think so. I think, it just goes to WWE works with what they feel like is best for their company, and they're going to use the fan favorites. They're going to use the guys that they feel are great, even though the fans don't have them as fan favorites. And, some guys kind of fall into the cracks, and I think Ryback was one of those guys. He kind of fell into that spot of fans became indifferent with him. And it's just because of, the fact that a lot of things happened with his run that became stale. And people were just not interested in. The last feud he was in, no one really cared a lot, to be honest with you, about Kalisto versus Ryback. And it had been a while before, we had actually had something we were all interested in when it came to him. So I could see his point. I could see where he's thinking that could be the case. But I think there's too many proof of other big guys right now who are being very successful or doing fine. And they're not being punished for being big. I think he's just trying to maybe establish some thoughts that kind of make him feel validated for the decisions he's made and the fact that he did leave the company. But, at the end of the day, everyone has an opinion and he has the right to his. So we'll have to, just respect that and move on with it. But, I get where he's coming from at least. We were talking about the, different stars and different guys here. Let's talk about an entire promotion. Now, this is because there's a rumor, and of course, some of it may be true. We're getting reports. Dave Meltzer's one of them, and of course, some of the guys are reporting about Billy Corgan trying to buy TNA. And we talked about this on Thursday's show, I believe, and we may have even talked about it on Monday's show. But we, really, didn't talk about the value or the estimated value of TNA and everything that's going on involved. And, we've heard that WWE may have put in a bid. Once again, rumor. Sinclair may even put in a bid. But what they're stating is that TNA could be worth up to $40 million. Now, I'm really curious what you guys think about the value. And I'm also kind of curious, what you think about the fact that even Sinclair is being named as a possible buyer.
This is a really interesting story that's sort of been bandied about, and stuff has been taken back and put forward and all this good stuff. The New York Post saying TNA is worth $40 million is just absolutely silly, and they only base that off of WWE, and clearly they know nothing about wrestling, because if you watch TNA and WWE side by side, it's two very different looks, and one of them is worth more than the other.
Yeah,
It's like
Meltzer
Universal.
said drop a zero. It's probably more like $4 million.
It's true, though. I mean, let's think about this. You're either talking about Universal Studios producing a film or Troma producing a film. That's what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's just, I don't think that WWE would really make a bid unless Billy Corgan said, we're going to put the old tape library up for sale. That's when I think WWE would really have an interest. Because WWE honestly has sort of taken all of the older stars away from TNA already, other than, James Storm deciding to re-sign. Everybody else that's there is sort of guys that were used to be in WWE that they've either recently let go or they let go in a previous life, and they may or may not want some of them back. And yeah, they probably do want, say, a Drew Galloway or an EC3 or something like that, but I don't know that even NXT being different is totally going to make them go, okay, we're just immediately going to come back. Because there's no guarantee that what Heath Slater's going through, Drew Galloway is going to get that same kind of treatment. You don't know that you're going to become Jinder Mahal. So it's possible that EC3 shows up on NXT and people immediately take to him and they don't have to worry about it, but there's not a scenario where you immediately put them back on WWE television and they become different people. We still haven't seen Kurt Hawkins supposed to debut on Tuesday. We don't know if these fax things are going to do anything for him or if he's just going to go right to being Kurt Hawkins again. So I don't blame anyone for really not wanting WWE involved, because it really just spells doom for a company that's sort of trying to get back to what they used to be, slowly but surely. And Billy Corgan might have his detractors, especially a person that's on this podcast every now and then. But he is kind of the guy that's sort of leading this TNA going up. And I kind of think that, if they've agreed on a sale number and Fight Network is willing to kind of let this go through and they can keep their deal in place, who's another person that's involved in this, then let it happen. Because at this point, Dixie Carter is not going to add anything or take away anything from TNA. Airlux Marketing is just there to give money. And Corgan's the creative force behind TNA right now. So either they're going to sink or swim with Corgan. And if they sink, well, they do. But they weren't going to go anywhere with Dixie Carter continuing to just be Dixie Carter and then TNA being what they are.
It's very true. For me, if WWE is indeed in the running for this, and I think we've seen some reports saying that they never put in anything, they are only in it for the tape library. That's it. Guys who are at the top of the card, they may want, but looking at what Drew Galloway's doing, not only just in TNA, but all over the independent wrestling scene, I don't think he's willing to give that up, especially because he seems so much happier. I don't know if Bobby Lashley's willing to give up MMA yet. EC3 might be one of those guys who would make that jump back. Maybe the Wolves, and that's a long shot because I don't know how well they would do. And you have the Hardys. I don't know if the Hardys are willing to give up what they got going on too. You're finding all these guys in TNA that are at the top of the card have found ways to succeed outside of the system that WWE's created. And I don't know if they're willing to walk away from that yet. So if you're investing $4 million on WWE's end, that's a lot of money to pay for maybe I don't know how much hours TNA has put on, but it's got to be a good amount, somewhere in the thousands, and I don't know if that's worth $4 million. Sinclair doing this is more interesting to me because one, they're doing it to get the TV spots and the network deals that TNA has, which is a smart idea because now they would have a more international look with all the contracts that TNA has. Their international deals bring in a lot of money. For Ring of Honor, I am sure if they could renegotiate that would help them out greatly. And you have the home team, I guess, and Billy Corgan and whoever else is lining up behind him or with him or without him. And I honestly, TNA's, like Sean said, it's going to be better off in Corgan's hand than whatever's Dixie's been doing with it. And if Dixie stays around in some job role, then that's fine. But Corgan's clearly the way of the future. And if they want TNA to still succeed and be a thing, then I think selling is the right idea.
Yeah, he says in the article that at Bound for Glory, he would love nothing better than to stand up in front of everyone and give a clear picture of where this company is and where it's going. As of now, the deal is in the phase where Corgan wants to make a presentation as a new majority owner of the company, but there's still a lot of people at the table, which I kind of already talked about in passing there. But so if you have to, I just don't think WWE is involved in this. For one, there's no way they're paying $40 million for TNA. They're not. TNA is nowhere near enough a competitor. I bet you could put NXT on TV right now and it would draw more than TNA. Okay, so I don't even know what main event gets, or if on whatever on Hulu. Or I don't know what main event gets in international markets, but I bet that would sort of rival what TNA gets right now in the U.S. So, let's be honest here. WWE's not paying $40 million for a tape library. So that number has got to be wrong, or the report is correct that neither Sinclair or WWE are not doing anything, and this is all just people trying to drum up drama and other stuff to make TNA feel and seem more important than they actually are. But this is kind of what you want, right? You want people talking about TNA. So even if it's rumors that aren't real, it makes people talk about TNA on Twitter, on Facebook, on whatever. And oh my God, WWE could possibly be buying it. Oh, how terrible, or how great is it, or whatever, So I really hope they're not. I would hope that if WWE really wants that tape library that bad, they could come in and have some kind of separate deal in place for that. But I really don't want to see them kill the company. It's never good for any of the wrestlers to have one less company work for. And as much as there have been times where TNA was so bad, I think I said, please just let it die. It's certainly not in a state anywhere near that right now where I would want to see it go.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest part that nobody really knows is who exactly would people be buying TNA from. Is it Dixie and her family, or is it just Dixie? Because if it's Dixie's family, I feel like her folks are going to want to try to make as much money back as they can from everything they've invested.
I thought that they pulled out a long time ago from that.
So it's just Dixie then that they would be buying it
Dixie
from?
Dixie and Aerolux.
And Aerolux, okay.
Yeah, which both of them, I'm sure, want to keep it closer to that $40 million value.
There is no way.
There's no way.
No, I know it's not happening. I'm just saying that's what they want, and that's what they are not going to get. But you're going to do anything as a person who's selling a product. You're going to try to get as much money as you can. So, they're trying to get that out there.
Yeah, and Dixie still owns 70% of TNA right now. So.
Yeah, so she would be walking away with a pretty nice payday from whatever it does sell. Even if it is $4 million, she's still going to get quite a big check for that. So
she is on TV again, so I wonder if that if she tried to pull that crap where they had to keep her on in some kind of role again, you know, which, you know, she is nowhere near. I mean, like, it's kind of like one of those. She's just on screen and it's whatever to me now. It's not. She's not obtrusive like she was when she was being heel Dixie. So it doesn't really bother me. But you know, to me, I just kind of feel like just you've done everything you could. You needed other people to get involved. Just get out right now, and don't force people to keep having you around when they don't want you around.
Oh, that sounds so mean.
Well, I mean, it's like you go to a party, they didn't want you there, but you keep being there, and they can't really do anything about removing you, but you keep insisting that you need to be there. I mean, at some point.
Because it's her house. I mean,
right.
She's at her own house party, and nobody wants her there.
That hits close to home.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. I'm kidding. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, and, I hope that, it is successful for either Billy Corgan or if Dixie stays majority owner. I want to see TNA do well. I really do. But I already know how it's going to go if Billy Corgan does pull it off and he is able to buy this company. I can see him now bound for glory backstage. The wrestlers are all getting ready for the show, and he just sits down with his guitar and starts singing, tonight, and then he says, tonight, I own you all. Anyway, so I would be pretty enthralled with that if he did that.
He just starts doing a mega mix of Smashing Pumpkins songs.
Yeah, just different songs about how he owns TNA. Yeah. You are TNA, and you are in my cage. Anyway, so let's talk about the fact that there's some other interesting things going on and some rumors that are circling around SmackDown. Now, this isn't about the entire show, but it's about the fact that there's a certain division that's on Raw that could be sneaking on over to SmackDown too, and that's the Cruiserweight Division. Now, this is just a rumor, but we're hearing that maybe, Vince and some other minds in the brass are thinking that SmackDown needs their own Cruiserweight Division to match what Raw's doing. I don't know, guys. I'm not really interested in that. I think that could fit on Raw. I mean, I don't know. I guess it could work, but I don't want these shows to be the same thing.
It's interesting that they're at least entertaining the idea if this has somehow gotten out to a rumor. Because they've been advertising the entire time that the Cruiserweights were exclusive to Raw. And the Raw was getting them because they have the longer show and all, whatever, right? SmackDown, I think, is fine already on its own. I don't know if it needs the Cruiserweight division. I certainly won't complain if they get one. You want something that makes people watch both shows, what keeps them different, as you were saying, Gary, and SmackDown, like making them carbon copies of each other is not a recipe for success for either show.
See, that's where I think my only issue is the time. It's remember they only have 2 hours, and they already have they have a top-loaded roster with guys that they feel that need to be on TV every week in The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena when he's around, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt. I mean, like, all those guys would be on TV every week. And that's at least an hour of your programming there. Then you've got the tag team division. Remember that Eva Marie comes back, I'm sure this week, or if not next week. Her suspension is over, and so is Paige's. We did not see Paige. Luke Harper's also apparently cleared to come back, and so is Emma. Emma's been cleared for a month and a half now. They still haven't had her on TV. And so, I mean, they have a few people that are already set to come back. We don't know where Luke Harper's going to come back to. And you're going to stick a Cruiserweight division there. Like, no, the only reason I'll say this is because if you really signed half of the people that were in that tournament, and you're not going to have them have spots in NXT where they're going to be actual NXT people and they're going to be on NXT TV and they're going to have roles on NXT and whatever. If you're making them do NXT house shows and then just be on the TV, the main WWE roster TV, then you cannot possibly fit 16 people on Raw. You have to put them somewhere else. And I think splitting the division and having it go to, part of it to go to SmackDown, I think is not the worst thing, because then you're going to run into the risk of you're never going to get all these guys on TV. You're going to wind up having the divisions be, you have so many guys that you got to have multi-man matches all the time, and you don't want that either. I'd much rather them be able to feel like they can have singles matches and build stories around these guys and all that stuff. And if you got to split it and take half of them over to SmackDown, whether it's 12 guys, whether it's 16 guys, whether it's whatever, and you split it between 8 and 6 or whatnot. Not to mention, remember, you can have the Cruiserweight guys add to the tag division. You can have a couple more tag teams added because of that. You can, you can have guys that they don't necessarily have to be always in the Cruiserweight division. They can be fighting the Miz for the IC title, whoever holds the IC title after the Miz, So there's spots for them. Just like, I think on Raw, because you have the extra hour, they kind of do have to be pigeonholed. But the thing with SmackDown is they're always talking about other opportunities, right? They have all these opportunities for people. Well, it wouldn't be bad if, say, an Akira Tozawa is around and he's not just in the Cruiserweight division. He can certainly do other things,
Wouldn't you want the same hope for the guys on Raw, though? Like, the guys in the Raw Cruiserweight division could certainly work the tag division. They could certainly chase Rusev in the U.S. title or whoever. And ultimately, hopefully, make that big step to being a top guy, right?
Oh, I want that for them, too. But I'm saying the way they have built SmackDown, the way they keep talking about it, it's sort of built to where you can have those guys and they don't have to be in that division, because you don't have the time to really necessarily add another division and then have all those guys do that. You need to spread them around the other show. Whereas on Raw, maybe you can take the time to build someone to come out of that division and do other stuff. You do it one by one instead of necessarily, well, everybody's going to be in a jumbled mess and we're all going to be doing different stuff.
See, but that just sounds like such classic WWE booking.
This is WWE, right? Like, we still got to remember what we're talking about here. Like we talked about on the Raw show, everybody that thought that immediately they were going to take the first hour of Raw and make it Cruiserweight division land, that didn't happen. So, I mean, well, look, maybe it happens after Clash of Champions when they have 2 months to build to something again, or another month to build to something, whatever. Maybe that happens. Maybe they just felt they couldn't do it on this show because it was more about making sure they built to the pay-per-view. But, I think there's an opportunity, if you want to do it, you can have them there. I don't know about 2 hours to have 8 more guys over there trying to fill another division.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it makes so much more sense to build. You're already talking about having these Raw Cruiserweights work NXT. It just makes so much more sense to have that division stretch out over both Raw and NXT, and you have a revolving door going that way. So you have spots for however many guys you have in this division to at least work somewhere during the week, or if they're not on TV, they can go work NXT or whatever, because devaluing a division and watering it down across both your products, because I highly doubt people have chosen to show yet, if they ever do. So just keeping that division over on Raw helps it feel like it matters just a tiny bit more,
I will say that with Monday Night Football being around, the ratings might be a lot closer to each other than they were without it. So, it could be a thing where you have less people watching Raw, but you have more people watching SmackDown now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. And, I think, once again, if you have something exclusive to Raw, like the Cruiserweight division, at least you'll get people turning over there to see it. Whereas they can't say, well, I can wait till tomorrow to watch Cruiserweights. I don't have to catch them tonight because, that they're already on SmackDown too. So, it's always important to have a show like Raw have some important things, some things to keep people interested in turning a TV channel over, instead of just being like, I'll catch you later, So.
And then tomorrow's or Tuesday's ratings or whenever they come out are going to be really important for 2 reasons. One, if their rating bounces back with only one Monday Night Football against them, like they normally do every week, and they put the Cruiserweights in the middle of hour 3, so they're trying to see if they could get the Cruiserweights to be there to get people to make sure they watch the main event. So if that, quarter hour or whatever goes down, it would be interesting to see what they think about that. Or if it goes up, does it mean that they decide, okay, well, maybe we need to just keep them on Raw because it's obviously drawing people's attention to keep watching the show for that.
Exactly. So I'm excited, about the Cruiserweight division. I just, like I said, I hope they make it feel special. It's important, and they don't try to spread it so much where people are just saying, "Oh, that's just another division." They can't do that, especially not this early in the game. So, let's talk about one last thing really quick. This will be something that you guys probably make a couple of comments about. New Japan's Shibata is going to be missing the rest of the Destruction Tour. And this is kind of a bummer. I mean, he's a big star.
Yeah, he's currently the never openweight champion. It looks like he's being groomed to have a big run in the next couple of years towards the top of the card. And the report that we read said that he has a spine injury and that it's rapidly deteriorating, and it just sounds absolutely awful. And I hope this really doesn't take him away from the ring too long. I hope it's only really minor, and he can come back fighting soon, because the guy absolutely deserves his time at the top of the card,
Exactly. After all the stuff he's done, and the history with New Japan and going away and then coming back, and everything he's had to do to get back the respect and find the company to finally get behind him. This is that time, and then you're just derailed by an injury, and perhaps it becomes a problem where you have to think about life as opposed to wrestling. But this is the kind of thing with Shibata is I wonder, unless like New Japan forces him out, if he would just wrestle anyway. So I hope that, again, like you said, Paul, this is not a big deal, and that they can find a way to, whether it's through surgery or whether it's something else, to sort of fix this problem. But, let's just wish them the best and hope we hear good things.
I agree. And, if nothing else, I think that they need to contact John Cena and have them, get together and get this thing fixed. Because John Cena usually can come out of things pretty quickly. Maybe Shibata can, too.
Give him the John Cena serum.
Yeah, whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe, John Cena has a hyperbaric chamber or something special that he can, blood transfusion, anything to get Shibata back in the ring. That's what we need. So, all right, guys. Well, now we have to move on and get on out of, quick hits. We had a lot of cool, interesting things to talk about, but now we want to talk about some Ring of Honor. That's right. So we'll be right back with that next, guys. All right, Paul.
Sweet. We are still in the Samstown Hotel and Gambling Hall for this episode of Ring of Honor. The show opens to a big round of applause and a huge pop for Steve Corino. His suspension is up. He is back at the commentary booth. Kevin Kelly is all kinds of happy. Nigel kind of goes, aw, and then slinks away because Corino is back to take his job.
I love it.
We then go to our opening tag team match of the All Night Express taking on the Gorillas of Destiny. It's fine. Kenny King and Tama Tonga between them, this would have been awesome. When you have the extra pieces, it kind of gets bogged down here and there for me. The Gorillas of Destiny do, however, pull out the win with a Guerrilla Warfare, their little version of the Snapshot, pretty much. And it's a match. It's average.
Yeah, just to probably, just to be, let everybody know, I did not get a chance to check this out, but, it's kind of interesting to me because usually, Ring of Honor finds a good way to start their shows, and if this is kind of average, that's kind of a bummer because for the most part, I usually like the beginning of it.
They save the good stuff for later. for sure, because after this, they do a quick little recap video of Lethal's and Naito's interactions from last week, where Naito and Evil turned on Lethal, and gets to talk about how much, or Lethal then gets some promo time to talk about how much he's really looking forward to his match with Naito at All-Star Extravaganza, because he gets to make it both business and personal about beating him, and he loves that. So we get to the meat of the show, though, which is the awesome feud that has been Shane Taylor and Keith Lee against the War Machine. And Shane Taylor gets a promo time to talk about his history with Ray Rowe, who trained him in Cleveland. They fought together, all this stuff. They made enemies together. And then Ray sort of leaves him high and dry when he moves to Texas and found his way to Ring of Honor and Stardom and paired up with Hanson to make War Machine and all this other stuff. And he left Shane behind to sort of deal with everything that Ray created back in Cleveland. And after, he dealt with all those enemies, and now he's here in Ring of Honor, and he wants revenge for pretty much being left high and dry. And we move on into a quick little squash from Taylor and Keith, who absolutely wreck Ken Phoenix and Ricardo Rojas, who are apparently local talent on the West Coast. And after that, they cut a promo where they want War Machine to come on out because, they beat him in Philly, but tonight they're here to destroy them. Ray Rowe and Hanson have no problem with this. They come out. Rowe said, that he thought that Taylor and Lee would be the last people to ever turn on him, and he's here for violence. So they charge the ring, and we come back to a grudge match between them that ends in a double disqualification because they start throwing chairs at each other. And the crowd starts marking out, and then they powerbomb Ray Rowe through two chairs that are set up in the ring, and EMTs climb in, and it's gotten way more personal now, and I really hope this gets a lot of time at All-Star Extravaganza, because I'm all about this feud. All about it.
Yeah, it sounds great. It really does, and I love the idea of them kind of giving some explanation on Taylor and Lee, and giving their backstory and giving some of the the fans an idea of why they do what they do and what everything's all about, and the challenge of War Machine. I mean, it's pretty gutsy, and for them to do what they did, and bring in the chairs and of course injure one of War Machine. It's a big deal, and it's going to heat this feud up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I think Taylor and Lee might be the hottest tag team out there right now. These guys, they're so good. They're working, I think, with a team, not only with Ray Rowe, who trained both and knows them very well, but Hanson and their style, they just work together so well. And despite the match maybe being like 6-7 minutes before you get to the double DQ, it's still awesome. And I honestly, if they're not Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions sometime next year, it's going to be a colossal shame. We have the main event up next. The Addiction of Christopher Daniels, Frank Kazarian teaming up with Kamatachi, taking on Roppongi Vice, which is Rocky Romero and Trip Beretta, obviously, teaming up with Kazuchika Okada. And this is really, really fun. You have Matt Taven out on commentary. He announces that the Kingdom will be participating in that 6-man World Tag Team title tournament, and he's going to reveal his partners at All-Star Extravaganza in their match. So that's something more to look forward to if you're on the All-Star Extravaganza fence about whether to buy it or not. And these guys, there's a lot of fun dives. It's your typical really fun action-packed 6-man tag that you get really anywhere nowadays, but just with Okada murdering people in it and whatnot. But the Addiction and Kamatachi win. They hit the best Meltzer ever on Trent Beretta to get the victory, and looking strong going into their match for which is going to be Ladder War at All-Star Extravaganza, which I'm super excited for too. But this was a really good episode of Ring of Honor. It's worth your time if you're into the Shane Taylor, Keith Lee, and War Machine feud. If not, the wrestling at the end is absolutely worth your time. And I mean, Ring of Honor has been pretty solid with their television recently. It's really made it enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of bummed out I didn't get a chance to watch it before we actually got done to start the podcast, but I will get to it for sure. And I'm excited about watching this whole thing with Taylor and Lee because, they're very interesting and they got so much potential. I can't wait to check that out for sure. And I hope everybody else listening goes and checks it out as well. If you hear us talk about Ring of Honor a lot and you're like, you guys, sorry, I don't get Sinclair in my area. I don't get Ring of Honor. just go download the Fight app. That's right, the Fight TV app has it available. It's free. To be honest with you, it doesn't cost you a thing. So that's how I watch it. Hopefully you can do the same. All right, guys. Well, we are done for this episode. We've had a lot of great stuff to talk about tonight. I hope everybody's enjoyed themselves. Just once again, go check out the W2M Network. It's got lots of great stuff for you and for your listening pleasure. And, of course, W2Mnet.com for all your written article needs. And, of course, also a home of all our podcasts. So, great stuff to come your way. Sean, do you want to let them know about anything special happening this week? Any shows people need to go check out?
Well, we did, Mark and I did the video games podcast talking about Tokyo Game Show and a few other things, all these game delays that have been happening recently. And so we also got the football shows, recapping, reviewing the College Football Week 3 and NFL Week 2. Of course, we already did our top 25 on the website, which you can go check out. We'll have our NFL Power Rankings for tomorrow, or Wednesday, or Tuesday morning. And, yeah, just, between the site and the network, of course, all the other shows that are usually have been having shows, they will. Jobber Score just had a show. And all the other shows, I don't know what's going on. I think Randall's having another one of those where he's just having a rough time right now. But I think all the other podcasts are being kind of regular. So just, do what you do. Check out the ones you like. And, we'll try to keep adding more when those opportunities come up.
Definitely. So, like Sean said, go check out the ones on the W2M Network and you'll enjoy them. We appreciate everybody for coming and checking us out tonight. Of course, don't forget Smackdown Live review right after Smackdown. It'll be happening. Also, come check us out. Friday morning on the download, you'll have episode 213 part 2. And that'll be your way. Of course, we're talking NXT, TNA Impact. We're talking Lucha Underground. And, of course, some other great stuff. You don't want to miss any of it. So, all right, guys. Well, for myself, Mr. Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser, if you're not living life to the max, guys.
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.